Hello there, very good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime News on TV1 for the News First, where the people come first. I'm Martin Satyanesan. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for this afternoon.
President returns to Sri Lanka after COP27. World Bank Group President assures support for Sri Lanka's economic recovery. Justice Minister wants decision to hold law exam in only English to be delayed. 53,000 development graduate officers eligible for teacher examinations. Clash of the Titans awaits as India takes on England in second semi-final.
Now the stories in detail. The President's Media Division says the World Bank Group President David Malpass has affirmed that World Bank Group support to Sri Lanka in rebuilding their economy and creating a foundation for sustainable private sector-led growth. President Ranil Wickremesinghe met World Bank Group President David Malpass at COP27, where discussions focused on the challenging macroeconomic and social situation in Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka's President Ranil Wickremesinghe returned to the country on Thursday the 10th of November, concluding his visit to Egypt, where he attended the COP27 summit. President Wickremesinghe held discussions on debt management with the Managing Director of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, Finance Minister of Ghana Ken Ofori-Atta, and Speaker of the People's Majlis of the Maldives Mohamed Nasheed on the sidelines of COP27. President Ranil Wickremesinghe, addressing the COP27 climate change conference in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, said that unbridled industrialization of the developed countries is the root cause of climate change, leaving the poor to suffer the consequences.
The Frontline Socialist Party questioned the motive behind including two foreign nationals as a part of Sri Lanka national delegation to COP27 in Egypt.
Sri Lanka is not responsible for climate change and global warming. Ranil does not need to commit this much. What is he doing by appointing foreign nationals as advisors who paid in dollars? As soon as Ranil became president, he brought in Erik Solheim as international climate advisor. What qualification does he have to become the advisor on international climate? Is he an environmental scientist? Why was he appointed as the advisor? Is he working free of charge in Sri Lanka? Is he given a salary? Who authorized to pay this man using public funds? Ranil does not even have a mandate to become a parliamentarian. How can he recruit staff like that? Are Erik Solheim and the Speaker of Maldives being paid in dollars? At a time when Sri Lanka is facing a dollar shortage, they are bringing Erik Solheim from Norway and the Speaker of Maldives, even though Sri Lanka has world-class environmental experts. What is the meaning of this?
Ranil
Wickremesinghe has paid special attention to climate change. Climate change has caused many damages to every country in the world. Food security is also important. The President believes an international program must be implemented to tackle food insecurity. To do that, views of everyone must be taken. The President has acted in a manner at the COP27, which garners assistance from Maldives and other countries.
The UK trade envoy for Sri Lanka, Lord Davis of Abbotsok, is in Colombo for a 3-day visit.
The UK trade envoy for Sri Lanka, Lord Davis of Abbotsok, will engage in talks in Colombo to expand trade opportunities between both countries. The British High Commissioner in Sri Lanka said Lord Davis of Abbotsok will meet a range of business and government stakeholders with a view to expand trade opportunities and support the mutual growth of the UK-Sri Lanka economic partnership. Boris Johnson appointed Lord Davis of Abbotsok CBE as the then Prime Minister's trade envoy for Sri Lanka on the 5th of October 2020.
The United Nations has warned of worsening food crisis in Sri Lanka amid economic woes.
The number of people in Sri Lanka needing urgent humanitarian help has doubled to 3.4 million. The United Nations has said it warned of a worsening food crisis in the South Asian island nation that declared itself bankrupt in July amid an unprecedented economic crisis. UN agencies working in Sri Lanka in a joint statement on Tuesday said that they had raised $79 million to feed those in need, but the increasing number of poor people meant an additional $70 million was needed. UN agencies had estimated in June that 1.7 million out of 22 million population in Sri Lanka required help. UN agencies had estimated in June that 1.7 million out of the 22 million population in Sri Lanka required help. The UN said its revised plan aims at feeding 2.1 million people, including pregnant mothers and school children, and providing livelihood support to 1.5 million farmers and fishermen.
The Society of Government Pharmacists questions at a time when the government does not have funds to purchase drugs and medicine, under whose requirement funds are invested for a new database for the medical supply unit. The Society of Government Pharmacists says arrangements have been made to introduce a new database for the management of drugs and medicine when there's already an existing database. However, they claim that due to various actions, moves are being made to do away with the current database. Meanwhile, the government's Medical Officers Association says speculation is surfacing that by inactivating the current database, attempts are made to create an artificial drug and medicine shortage in the country. Moving along, Sri Lanka's Health Minister Kehelia Rambukwella addressed the 7th World One Health Congress in Singapore on Wednesday. The Health Minister had noted that priority needs to be given to ensure food security in the face of climate change.
The Health Minister has noted that it is paramount for a country like Sri Lanka that is based on agriculture to pay special attention towards food security. He told the 7th World One Health Congress that a large portion of Sri Lanka's workforce have joined agriculture, and climate, weather and environmental changes have made matters complicated, adding that it directly affects food security. The 7th World One Health Congress will take place in Singapore in 2022, bringing together experts from all around the world to share learnings across diverse disciplines in a 5-day hybrid event at the iconic Sands Convention Centre.
Meanwhile, Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe visited Parliament on Thursday upon returning to the country after concluding his visit to Egypt, where he attended COP27 summit.
We can't go on like this. There are serious issues that the world faces. If you listen to the speech made by the Secretary General of the UN, I think in the next 20-30 years the situation become more serious. We listened to the Pakistan Prime Minister, we studied the situation where the melting of the Himalayas affected Pakistan, but it's not only that, as Nepal said, it's going to affect them. It's going to affect India, where the Ganges runs through. In fact, it is going to affect Bangladesh, because Ganges and the Brahmaputra both come through Bangladesh. It is going to affect Myanmar, because Irrawaddy and the Salween comes through Myanmar. It's going to affect Maldives, it will go underwater. It's going to affect us because part of our western coast will go underwater. Even places like Kanyakumari on the tip of South India will also go under. That's the threat that all of us are facing. But there is no response on this by the major countries. So we were discussing among ourselves, the only way out, the idea is to go for COP28 and lock horns with the G20 on these issues. In my view, we should give to those countries that are having serious problems on food scarcity the same terms that the IMF gave to Ukraine. Ukraine was fighting a war with Russia. These people are fighting a war for survival. So we should ask the West to give the same support that was given to Ukraine. So these are major issues which will be a part of our foreign policy and our environment policy in the coming area. I was very happy when the chief whip of the opposition referred to Geneva, because I think this is the very basic right, the right to live of this generation, the younger people, those who will be 40, 15, 2050, whom we are talking, and the unborn. So if you are going to ignore the rights of the youth, the younger generation and of the unborn, that is the worst genocide that can happen.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe also told Parliament that he was accompanied by advisors Ruwan Wijewardena and former President of the Maldives Mohamed Nasheed to COP27 in Egypt. The President also said that he spoke with the Chief of the International Monetary Funds, and Sri Lanka now has to engage with India and China on talks regarding debt restructuring. Wickremesinghe said the request from both the nations was to end discussions before December 2022. The President said he also met with the head of the World Bank as well.
The National Bhikkhu Front points out that rulers have not properly understood the situation with regard to food security in the country. Day by day, the amount of people suffering from starvation is increasing by hundred-thousands. The medicine shortage is worsening. Corruption of the rulers is increasing. As of now, an oil tanker is at sea for 60 days. Don't they have brains? Do they only know how to beat people at protests? Apart from choosing a people-friendly administration through democracy and elections, there is no other solution to this crisis.
A high-octane clash is on the cards as India take on England in the second semi-final of the ICC Men's T20 World Cup in Adelaide on Thursday.
India made a strong statement with their performance in the Super 12s, winning 4 out of 5 matches and finishing at the top of Group 2. A loss to South Africa was a sole blip in an otherwise consistent group stage showing. The Indian batters have put on quite a show as well. All of Surya Kumar Yadav, Virat Kohli and KL Rahul have been in strong form and will be looking to take that forward into the knockouts. But skipper Rohit Sharma has been struggling to get big scores and his team will be hoping he can step up. England bounced back well after losing to Ireland in the Super 12s. Qualifying for the semi-finals was looking quite difficult when the match against Australia was washed out, but Joss Butler's men delivered strong performances against New Zealand and Sri Lanka to make their way into the Final Four. The main strength of the English side is their batting, which runs right down to number 10. The lineup is full of power hitters right from the top, which means they can rely runaway with a game on decks that are good for batting and venues where the boundaries are short.
Speaking in Parliament, Minister of Education Dr. Susil Premajayantha said 53,000 graduates have been given the opportunity to appear for the teachers' examination for existing vacancies.
53,000 have been recruited as development officers. As of now, there are a group of people who applied for jobs after A-levels who are below the age of 35, but they have a degree. We will give them an opportunity to take part in the exams. Apart from that, if a Graminaldari or a mailman who are graduates will be given opportunity to sit for this exam under the Teachers Service Constitution. We will hold this island-wide. Based on their scores, they will be summoned to the structured exams. We will make available those marks to the provinces. We will then take those marks to the zonal level. Within 3 years, they must complete the postgraduate diploma in education.
Minister of Justice has requested the Council of Legal Education to postpone the implementation of conducting the law college exams in only the English language until the 1st of January 2026.
Several questions were raised on examination of the law students at the law college. The exams are set to commence on the 2nd of next month. They have taken out the option for these students to sit for the exams in Sinhala or English. I would like to know what actions that you have taken regarding this matter. I have informed the Council of Legal Education that approval from Parliament is necessary. We have taken into consideration the majority views in public, that is to allow to sit for the examination in the native language, at least for the next 3 years. It was communicated to the Council of Legal Education and their response will be made available to the Parliament.
Sri Lanka's Supreme Court has determined that the VAT Amendment Bill as a whole is not inconsistent rather, with the provisions of the Constitution, subject to amendments in the committee stage of Parliament.
I wish to announce to Parliament that I have received the determination of the Supreme Court in respect of the bill entitled Value Added Tax Amendment, which was challenged in Supreme Court in terms of Article 121(1) of the Constitution. On an overall consideration of the provisions of the bill, the Supreme Court is of the opinion that subject to the following amendments being moved at the committee stage of Parliament as proposed by the learned Deputy Solicitor General, the bill as a whole is not inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution. Number 1, clause 3, the insertion of following proviso in section 10(1) within inverted commas provided further for the purpose of paragraph 6(7), the requirement of the registration shall rise from the date on which this Amendment Act comes into operation. 2. Clause number 4(1), the reference to September 30th, 2022 to be deleted and substitute with November 30th, 2022. 3. Clause 4(2), the reference to October 1st, 2022 to be deleted and substitute with December 1st, 2022. In order that determination of the Supreme Court be printed in the official report of the today's proceedings of the House.
The Muthuraja Tusker at the Kande Viharaya temple in Alutgama was handed over to the Thailand embassy in Sri Lanka to be sent overseas for treatment.
Muthuraja is one of the 2 tuskers which were donated to Sri Lanka from Thailand during the time of former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga. Muthuraja will be sent to Thailand for treatment. The tusker was at the Kande Viharaya temple in Alutgama for the past 25 years and fell ill several times. The tusker's feet and legs were covered with fertilizer bags in recent times after wounds were reported on its feet. On Wednesday, the 9th of November, the Thai embassy officials visited the tusker to inquire into its current condition. The tusker will be flown to Thailand after being kept at the Dehiwala Zoological Garden for a few days for treatment.
The Court of Appeal on Thursday ordered the Attorney General to produce all audio and video material of State Minister Sanath Nishanta's comments to the media at a media briefing held on the 28th of August at the SLPP head office premises. The material is expected to be produced in court on the 12th of November, and the order was made when a case filed against the State Minister for alleged contempt of court was taken up.
The appeal court ordered for the State Minister to appear in court in person on the 12th of November 2022. Senior State Counsel Hassani Opatha, appearing for the Attorney General, informed the court that the preparation of the charge sheet against the State Minister is underway and it is yet to be completed. State Minister Sanath Nishanta, who is a respondent in the case, appeared in court in person on Thursday the 10th of November as per a previous court order. The plaint against Sanath Nishanta was filed by attorneys Priyalal Sirisena, Vijitha Kumara and Judicial Services Commission.
The Colombo Chief Magistrates Court ordered the OIC of the Criminal Investigations Department to immediately investigate whether State Minister Diana Gamage is remaining in Sri Lanka without a valid visa and submit a progress report to the court on the 15th of December. The order was made when a case filed challenging the citizenship of Diana Gamage was taken up in the court on Thursday.
A foreign national has obtained a visa to enter Sri Lanka and had not renewed it since 2015, although continuing to stay in the country. She is enjoying the luxuries in Sri Lanka while depending on the taxpayers' money. Therefore, we suggested that if the woman is remaining in Sri Lanka without a valid visa, the Controller General of Immigration and Emigration has a responsibility to arrest her and deport her. However, it was evident that the CID is attempting to undermine these investigations for over a year.
පරීක්ෂණය යටපත් කරලා තිබුණා.
In order to further undermine this, they have sought the advice of the Attorney General. That means the issue will drag on for several more years. The crime is exposed, therefore she needs to be arrested and processed.
A workshop on wildlife and environmental reporting was held in Colombo on Wednesday.
Many experts from the academic and applied fields of wildlife conservation and media shared their expertise with the attendees. Journalists from the print and electronic media across the island joined the workshop and shared their inputs as well. The workshop expected to enlighten journalists on appropriate ways and means of reporting wildlife and environment-related stories by avoiding misinformation and mistelling constructive attitudes in the viewers.
Sri Lanka's Tourism Minister Harin Fernando told international media that Sri Lanka's hospitality does not die simply because inflation is high.
The world is going through recession and Sri Lanka is also a part of it. We are hit a bit hard, but Sri Lanka is a resilient nation. More than 20% of our population depends on tourism. So Sri Lanka is an island nation. It's a beautiful place. So the hospitality doesn't die just because inflation is high. The hospitality is there. The Sri Lankans always smile and they always are welcoming and they are the most hospitable nation. The value for money that you get in Sri Lanka right now is putting lots of things in place. We have a fuel pass, especially for tourism. Let's say somebody walking in wants to rent a car and drive, they can take a fuel pass from the airport and top it up from a bank, which by paying dollars. And we have some star class hotels doing fantastic work. Sri Lankan have a different brand, different product. So when you really put on the pricing, it may not look competitive, but the price that you want to find, you can find it in Sri Lanka, whatever kind of the price that you want to find. Either ways, I would say Sri Lanka is much cheaper when you see the financial transaction.
Shifting our attention to international news, Russia has ordered its forces to withdraw from the Ukrainian city Kherson, the only regional capital seized by President Vladimir Putin's troops since the war began.
The announcement on Wednesday followed weeks of Ukrainian advances towards the city and signaled a potentially huge blow to Russia's military campaign in Ukraine, which it invaded in late February. In televised comments, General Sergei Surovikin said it was no longer possible to keep Kherson city supplied. Russian Minister of Defense Sergei Shoigu also echoed the comments and said, quote, "I agree with your conclusions and proposals. Proceed with the withdrawal of troops and take all measures to transfer forces across the river." Unquote. The announcement came hours after the Russian-installed deputy head of Kherson was reportedly killed in a car crash after weeks of urging residents to evacuate the area.
Control of the United States House and Senate were still up in the air on Wednesday morning as states across the country tallied votes in neck-and-neck midterm election races.
A set of close contests will determine whether Democrats keep their slim majorities in the House and Senate or if Republicans will seize control of one or both chambers of the legislature. Democrats picked up a pivotal Senate seat in Pennsylvania, with Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman projected to defeat Republican Mehmet Oz's critical Senate races in Georgia, Wisconsin, Nevada and Arizona were still unresolved. The balance of power may take days or even weeks to determine, especially in the Senate, where Georgia's race could be headed for a runoff in early December. Democrat Raphael Warnock has a 0.5 percentage point lead over GOP candidate Herschel Walker with 96% of the votes counted, but neither candidate has more than 50% required by state election rules to clinch the seat. NBC estimated that Republicans could end up with 220 seats, a narrow majority in the House. But the party came into election day hoping to take commanding control of the chamber. The outcome could make all difference for President Joe Biden, whose legislative hopes rest on whether Democrats can push his agenda through a hyper-partisan Congress.
Recently, the National Child Protection Authority, Education Ministry and the police launched an investigation into an incident where kids were tortured for allegedly stealing a wallet. This is how our News First cartoonist Sandhuni Somaratna portrays the event. From that, we bring to a close this edition of Lunchtime News on TV1. For details of the stories and much more, simply log on to our website www.newsfirst.lk. For the News First, where the people come first, I'm Martin Satyanesan. You take care and have a nice day.